Hey everyone, my name is Slevo, and today I'm going to be doing my pick'ems for the Challenger stage of the upcoming Blast TV Major in Paris. So, starting off, I'm probably going to just pick these lower teams that I think are definitely going to go through. In terms of the 3-0 and the 0-3, I'm probably going to go with the standard. They could 3-0, but they could also go 3-2. They could also go 2-3. You just really don't know what team is going to show up on the day. So, if I'm starting off, the first team out of these lot that I reckon is guaranteed to go through, like absolutely guaranteed, no doubts, is going to be G2. I think the form that they've shown since Katowice hasn't been as strong as the Katowice run itself, but I think out of all the teams here, they definitely have the most talent. They're probably the most consistent team as well, because as we're going to get to down the line, there's a couple of teams that have probably just as good players, but in terms of their form, they're very kind of hit or miss. So I don't think they're as guaranteed as G2. So yeah, for me, G2's got to be the first one to go in. The second one, probably for me, is going to be FaZe. They're that team. They're one of those teams that I was saying there is very similar to G2 in terms of the stars that they have, but they're not as consistent in the form that they show up in. As we saw with the previous major at Rio, they went out 0-3 despite being one of the favorites to go on and win the whole thing. And we've seen a lot of performances from them this year where they really just haven't shown up. Like, it's the same with Katowice. Like, they should have been locked in to go to playoffs there, and they went out. But I think here, there's going to be something different about this major being the last one. There's a lot riding on this for Carrigan's legacy. Imagine if he goes and wins this now, as he's going to break his own record of being the oldest major winner, and doing it to close out the game. It'll really solidify him as one of the best, if not the best, IGL CSGO ever saw. So for me, these two are probably the most locked in to go through, in my opinion. The next pick I'm going to go with might be a little bit of NA bias, as I'm a writer for Dust2.us, but I'm going to say Liquid, because Liquid weren't exceptional at the Ormore. It got a bit shaky against Nouns. I believe it was Pain or Furia that they lost to when it came to the 2-1 game. But I think they've had a month now. They're in Utrecht at the moment. They're boot camping for 2 weeks in Europe before this major, which I think is really going to help their confidence, and it's really going to help the preparation, because before Pro League, we saw Yakinder talk about how they wasted their time preparing for that tournament where they really did struggle. But that was because they were playing in NA, which we all know has been a difficulty to try and find good practice on that continent. But I think having that 2-week boot camp, they've had a month since the Ormore to kind of brush off that ring rust. And I think they're really going to come into this as the Liquid of old that we kind of saw, where they were consistently making playoffs. And that form where you know in the early stages of a tournament, they're going to be able to get through it without much issue. Next, then, this is where it kind of gets more difficult, because there's a lot of teams here that are similar levels that I think definitely could progress over one another. But for my fourth pick, I'm going to go with my gut and say ENCE. I think ENCE had a real shaky start to that Ormore. They went down 0-2, but the way that they pulled it back, they showed a lot of resilience. I don't think they lost a map in their run after they went 0-2. And beating Cloud9, who they inevitably knocked out of this major. We won't see Cloud9 here because of ENCE, pretty much, because they sent them down to the last chance qualifier where they had to run into FaZe. I think I have a lot of faith in Snappy as an IGL and Nerds as a star, because whatever Snappy has been doing with that role, whether it was Spings, whether it's Nerds, it just clearly unlocks something in them that they have a lot of freedom. They have a lot of space to show off their individual prowess. And yeah, I think Nerds is going to really have an exceptional challenger stage. I think they might struggle when they get to the Legends stage, which I'm going to try and do my Legends pick'em as well. I won't be able to do the Champion stage, I believe, because I'll be over there in Paris. But in terms of ENCE at this stage, I don't think they should have too much of a struggle. I think they'll be a 3-1 team. Because I think any of these four are going to go 3-0, depending on who they face. So say with the Bushall system, it could be FaZe G2 for 3-0. So one of them will get it. But I think any of these four can realistically go 3-0. But the way that the pick'ems work, you don't really want to waste one of these teams on your 3-0 pick, because all it takes, like I said, one of those best of ones to go against them, and then you've lost your 3-0 pick. For the fifth team to go through, I'm really kind of stuck on this one, because there's a lot of teams that really could go through, but it depends on their form, because we haven't seen a lot of these teams since the Oromore about a month ago. And then there's some, like the likes of Complexity, who have gone to events since that Oromore and looked much worse. Take their Melbourne, getting knocked out in the groups by Ecstatic, who's a team that couldn't even get close to the closed qualifiers for the Oromore, and then losing to them in a best of 3. It really doesn't bode well for their form coming into this. That being said, I'm probably going to pick Fours for my 5th spot. There's just something about Fours as a team. They have a lot of great individual players. There's no real superstar carry like the likes of Ends, where you know that they're going to pop off and be like the best player at the tournament. But as a 5, and I think Jerry as an IGL has always held a very high esteem in the scene. There's reasons that teams like Navi were looking at him previously. I think the way he sets his teams up is very solid. They play a great style. And I think over the likes of Pain and Gamer Legion and Apex, they probably should have them. Monty's another team that I could put in for this spot, because I think they're very similar teams. Like, I don't think a lot of the top teams would be worried about them, but there's a chance that Fours would beat them in a best of 3 because they just have that prowess about them. So Fours, I'm going to go with the 5th slot. For the 6th slot and the 7th slot, I'm stuck between a couple. So we have NIP, OG, Pain, Monty, and Mouse. Like, this is where it gets difficult now. So my gut is telling me Mouse are going to go through this stage, because I think Frozen and Exertion will have a couple of maps where they just completely go off, and it's the best of 1 stages as well. I think they'll thrive there. And when it gets to best of 3s, if they come up against a team that they're much favored against, I'd have them backed. But I'm going to go Mouse for my 6th slot, which might be controversial because their form hasn't been that great as of late. But I think just with the star power that they have on that team, also Dexter's liable for a best of 1 where he just pops off out of nowhere when he picks up the AWP every time Torzy dies, and he somehow gets 3 kills on it. That seems to be a staple of that team. But I'm going to go with Mouse. And then for my 7th slot, where do I go with this? That's the thing as well. I still have to do my 3-0. So I'm thinking about OG or Nip for 3-0, because it's just mental. Like, you can see them winning 2 best of 1s, and then with the Bush All system, they might get like some random team that has also had like a relatively easier run. But where do I go with this? I'm not confident in any of the teams on this side. I think, if anything, this side will be the side that I'm looking for 0-3. But I also really have to consider Monty as well. So, where do I go with this? This is a tough pick 'em this year, I think. And I think it's only going to get harder with the Legend stage, because there's some pretty good teams in the Legend stage, and a lot of good teams are going to come out of this stage. So I think this could be one of the most difficult years that we're going to see people getting the Diamond coin. My NA bias wants to go with Pain for this last slot. But where do I go with this? How about I do my 3-0 pick first and then decide? Because I think I might put Nip 3-0. Yeah, Nip just scream a team that really you don't know who is going to show up. Ever since they brought Config in, it seems like a team that has been a bit lost. They can either all be popping off at the same time and really be exceptional, or they can just completely bomb out of tournaments and close to last place. So I'm hoping that they hit a bit of a stride here, and that can just spur them on to a quick 3-0 and get them out of there. But I could also see if they went up 2-0, they could go to that 2-2 game and still lose it. So rationally, I'm going to go with that one. So I'm between Payne, OG, and Monty for this last slot. Monty, I think, have surprised a lot of people, especially with Boros. Like, his performances have been exceptional. I think he was the highest or the second highest rated player at his stage of the RMR. So I don't know how sustainable that is though for Monty, because this is Boros' first major. He's a teenager. Like, he's only 18 years old. Is he going to crumble a bit under the pressure of playing at this stage? The RMR is a completely different story to the major itself. Like, once you get there, it is a different ball game. So, you know what? I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say Monty take this last slot. Monty and Fours is the two CIS region teams that are gonna go through. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think these four are more guaranteed. These three, it could go anyway. This one's the more meta pick for doing the pick'ems because, like I said, you can write off your 3-0 pick after the first day. And same goes for the 0-3 pick, which is where I think a lot of people will be torn between a couple of sides. I don't think Payne will go 0-3. I don't think OG will go 0-3 because I think they're closer to making this slot. Gamer Legion, you don't really know what Gamer Legion is going to show up. They seem to be pretty solid around the major time, like qualifying for the last major in Rio. They were the team that knocked out this side, G2. But around the season, since they're not a Louvre team, they're not a Blast team, we rarely get to see them at like that top level competition. So we see them at the likes of CCT where they're fine, like, but that's also a different level of competition where I've seen a lot more complexity. I'm a bit worried for them now at this point because that performance at Melbourne going out in groups. Greyhound, you can never really write off. You can never really guarantee Greyhound does a 0-3 because they always have that one map in them. And it's typical of, like, you look at Twitter afterwards and you see their players saying, fuck your pick'ems, because they know how much they get picked as an Australian team that come into the major. I think Apex could be a good shout for 0-3, but they have a lot of solid names on that team that could just pop off for a map. So I wouldn't really trust them as a 0-3. Like, they have the likes of JL, they have the likes of Jacob and Knock. Like, that trio there, any of them can have a pop-off map, or like all three at the same time, and really exploit some of these other teams like the likes of Gamer Legion or maybe even an OG. But I'm stuck between these two for my 0-3, I reckon. The Mongols had that one exceptional performance at Katowice, but since then they've had players being replaced. I believe it was Score that they got rid of. They got through the Asian Armor, which is, like, that's fine. They got through it. It didn't look comfortable, but they're here now. Fluxo for me is probably the most obvious 0-3 pick, considering their run to get here. A lot of people from the Americas would have had the likes of MIBR, considering how good Insani has been, how pretty solid their form was in general at Tier 1 competition, because they made it to the likes of Katowice and Pro League. But Fluxo, on the other hand, had a much easier run. I believe it was, they played an NA mixed team called Ur, and I think it was Paqueta, which is a team of unrecognizable Brazilians to the public scene. They've got some good names in there, like the likes of Phelps, VSM getting to play his first major, considering he was VAC banned for quite a while. But I think they're just the very obvious pick for the 0-3. They're the most guaranteed, and obviously nothing's guaranteed when it comes to best of ones and Counter-Strike in general. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Fluxo for my 0-3 pick. I'm disappointed because I would have wanted to have put Complexity progressing, and I think they actually could progress, but they just really haven't shown anything since Katowice for me to warrant putting them in here. I think any of these sides could make it through as well, but like I said, it's close to the start of the video. I think this might be one of the most difficult pick'ems that we've ever had in Counter-Strike. And I know people say that every year, but I think this really might be it. That diamond coin is going to be very, very, very rare, I think, at the end of this. But I'm pretty happy with that. I rationalized my picks pretty well, I believe. And yeah, I'm going to lock these in now. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So with that being said, that wraps up my Challenger Stage pick'ems. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave it a like, subscribe, a comment what you think I could do better next time maybe, or comment even some ideas on other content, because I'm going to try and keep this channel running a bit more. I know I did one video around this time last year and then I just abandoned it. But yeah, I'm going to try and be a bit more consistent. And yeah, that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to tune back in for my Legends stage pick'ems, which will be coming in about a week's time once we get through this Challenger stage. And you can make fun of me for all the picks that I definitely got wrong from this. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.